If you've been following this channel, you probably already know that we've been doing a few travel finance videos trying to explain how we plan our travels and try to get the most out of holidays. We're spending less money so we get to travel more. So if you like this kind of stuff, do make sure to subscribe because we're doing more stuff in this series. Without further ado, let's get started talking about accommodation. Hi, I'm Julia, the wine.
Hi, I'm Samora, the rum.
We met in London, fell in love and moved to Ireland.
We share tips on being an expat, travel, cultural experiences, and living life efficiently. So, of course, accommodation is one of the big things that you look at, where you're trying to estimate, hi, can I actually afford to go to this place to travel? And also, one of the easiest costs to cut down on. Usually in the past you think about travel, you're thinking about going to your full-blown hotel, but now you have a bit more options. There are some really good hostels that, even though most of them might be geared for students, I know younger travelers, you can get some pretty cool private rooms, as well as, of course, Airbnbs. One of the things we focus most on is going somewhere with a good location. That means outside of the big tourist spots where everything is a bit more expensive, into somewhere where it's more local. Of course, this means you may need to take a longer route to transport to get to some of the attractions you want to see, but in the end, it can really help you save. Because one of the other things as well, which you usually don't think about with hotels, is that you usually have to pay for the food. You can't cook your own food really in the spaces, but this is where an Airbnb might be able to help, because you can take out some of the costs without having to, of course, go out, get some takeout, get some meals, go to a restaurant every single night. Some nights you could actually save yourself that, what, 20, 30 quid, 40 quid, even 50 quid, depending on which country you're in, for going out for a dinner for two. And save that money, put it in some groceries, dinner for a couple of the nights, and boom, accommodation working for you, saving money.
Now, point number 2 on our list is food, because we love food, everyone does, we need it to survive. Food is awesome. But the problem is, food cost is often, while you're traveling, the one thing that really starts bringing up your travel cost as you're going, and when by the end of the trip you realize, oh no, I don't have money left to like buy the souvenirs I promised my grandma or go see the cool thing I wanted to do. So to avoid that, if you realize you're traveling and you realize you're starting to like the expenses get higher than you anticipated, like Sam said, an easy way to do if you planned ahead and booked an Airbnb, hostel, whatever accommodation with a kitchen, something you can do is, instead of going out to eat, just go buy some, just basic ingredients and cook for yourself. I know it's maybe a bit not as holiday feeling, but if you want to save money to go and do something else another night or go to a fancy restaurant one of the nights, it does really help reduce the cost. Also, if you're out and about, like something that can really bring up the travel cost a lot of the time is that you're out there, you're sightseeing, you're having fun, and then you realize, so hungry, we've been walking for like hours, we've walked 15 kilometers, we need food now. And then you look around and you're in a touristy area and you realize all the places pretty much look like tourist traps, and you like go into the side streets and it's really hard to find stuff, and eventually you just settle for whatever smells good.
True experience.
based on real life experiences. So one of the things you can do is, if you plan a little ahead, is of course in the morning make sure you have a good breakfast. So since we had our kitchen, for example, in Edinburgh, what we did is we made sure I had my porridge and my fruit and whatever, and also we'd get sandwiches so that if you get hungry during the day, we can just stop whenever and have the sandwiches. And then for lunch, a good thing to do is, if you are planning to eat out in restaurants, do it for lunch. Lunch is usually much more cheaper than going for like a dinner a la carte, whatever. It's like even in the same restaurant, going for lunch and going for dinner, often completely different prices. And especially with lunch, you often get lunch menus. It's like you don't have that much choice in what you want. It's often like choose between 1 or 2 soups, 1 of 3 mains or something, but it'll be significantly cheaper and usually a good portion if it has 2 or 3 courses to make sure you get enough food. Also, if you are trying to find some cheaper food and you're walking around, look out for like university areas, which are usually very close to the city center, or office areas, because those places usually have the best lunch deals as well, because local people gotta go eat somewhere. So follow the locals and you usually find some really nice spots with some good food and very decent prices. Another big thing is that we love is trying out food in different countries. And we often want to try traditional food. Well, mostly me, because often it turns out to be meat, so this one's maybe more for me than for Sam. But it can be sometimes really hard because you're looking for like the best places to get the local food. And if you look online, you're usually gonna get the tourist trap places. So if you go a little bit further out, maybe as you're walking around during the day or during the evening, and you hear the locals talking and you see which places they go to, those are usually pretty good places to try some local food. Or if you want the complete budget version, is actually going to any supermarket, like a local brand ideally, but like a convenience store or something, but any supermarket, even if it's like a bigger brand you have in other countries, I guarantee you're gonna find some local stuff. So I tried some Scottish tea there, we had some potato scones that I didn't know were a thing as a snack. They cost 50p. That's how simple it can be. 50p to try some local food just by going into a supermarket and checking out what kind of stuff they have.
So our next point isn't exactly for those people in the Eurozone who will use the same currency, but those of us who are traveling from a bit further afield. So one of the things we actually did is that we were kind of planning for it on the trip to Edinburgh. We're like, okay, cool. We know how we're going to save some money here. And thanks to the calculations that Julia made, we had a cool estimate, but you can never really be sure how much places would actually accept cash versus card. You know me, go swiping stuff and cards all over the place like, ooh, my phone, tap. Sorry, tangent. But the real fact is that we realized that besides the foreign exchange fee that happened when we went to the ATMs, that for some reason you should check your bank with this. See which one's more expensive, where you can save. Because we realized that actually tapping and letting the bank convert the fees was a bit more, it was less expensive than just withdrawing cash from the ATM. So it ended up for the bigger purchases really doing that, because our bank seems to have some sort of cap for the amount of exchange fee that they can charge. With the ATMs, we weren't exactly seeing that. So you have to check your bank and depend on the location where you are as well. We're in Barbados in Austria, we make it quite simple in ourselves. I basically send out money to Barbados and we just withdraw the money from that account without the fees. Austria, pretty easy. Use
Euro.
just the euro, and also just use the Austrian bank account, so you can't get charged with the Irish card. So those aren't really situations that you can get into. The Edinburgh example is the best one for how you can do. Check your bank, make sure that either take out the money in bulk so you can pay without going to the ATM all those times, or just tap, and hopefully you get to save some money that way.
So another point where you can save money is the sightseeing. So for example, with Edinburgh, every blog, website you go to, it'll tell you, go to Edinburgh Castle. But to be honest, a castle is a castle. Like all castles pretty much are built in the same pattern. You have like the towers, you have the things with the drawbridge and stuff. If you want to see a castle, oftentimes it's so much like a better experience if you actually look for a lesser known castle. Because usually Europe, it's not just one castle, there is like a castle around every corner. So if you go to one of the lesser known castles, usually entrance fee much lower, and also there'll be much less people, which makes for a more pleasant experience if you want to actually experience the castle. And another little tip is, if you're like, no, I love Edinburgh Castle, like I've been fascinated with this all my life, I need to see it. Then also check out the tourist passes, because often cities offer certain tourist travel passes where you have lots of the most famous experiences included in that. So it'll usually be cheaper, you often get to skip the queues, and important as well, they often have travel benefits as well, so you can use them as a travel ticket. So if you are very passionate about seeing like the must-sees in a city, like seeing all the landmarks, then that's often a much cheaper way to do it.
Now this one's a bit of a weird one. We're really about to tell you splurge. That's how you save money on your holiday. Alright, put on pitchforks. I'll explain. You're going to want to do some stuff that are fun, more expensive on your holiday, stuff that you won't be able to pass up. For example, being in Edinburgh and denying yourself the fact to go see something related to Harry Potter. That's not going to happen. Put it in your budget that there's certain stuff you're going to splurge on. A restaurant that you love, that you want to go back to again. We did that. Harry Potter escape room. We did that. For me, desserts. Hi, if I'm going at a restaurant, why would I pass on desserts? There's always time for desserts. I have a dessert budget. You know, this is what's going to happen. So by creating a list of stuff that you can splurge on, even if you're shopping, because you're there on holiday, you're there for a vacation, and you're there to feel good before you gotta, get back to the real world. Might as well schedule in a budget so that besides of doing stuff that, is fun and interesting, you can be like, yeah, I got this cool thing on vacation, and then be like, hi.
So just to sum up, like the two biggest points, the two biggest changes you can probably make if you're already traveling and you're realizing the budget is going up way too high. Food, like we said, stay in a night, get some groceries or get some takeout, try to go cheaper. Or also transport, like sometimes try to walk instead of take the bus, or if you're going on a day trip, try to take the bus instead of the train. It's usually not as comfortable, but often quite a bit cheaper. So those are just 2 tips for while you're already traveling. The other stuff is more for planning ahead when you're sort of forecasting your budget. If you're more interested in that, we also have a video just where we talk about how to actually forecast sort of your travel budget, so go watch that if you're interested in that. And we hope you liked the video, and if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe, because we're going to do more stuff like this.
Yes, it's also summer, so we're having our lovely trip to Austria, so we're kind of like vlogging the whole thing. By the time you see this, I don't know, will we have done it already? Don't know. Either way,
We'll see.
There's a link somewhere if you want to see that. My family, pretty much, Beijing's in Austria for the first time, where you also get to annoy her with lots of Sound of Music references. Gonna be fun.
Alright, that's it for now. See you next time.
Bis später.
Bye.
Bye.